Oameni și meserii de muzeu, un podcast realizat de Muzeul Hartilor.
Muzeele există deja de câteva secole și cu toate acestea, meserile celor care lucrează într-un muzeu sunt foarte puțin cunoscute. Știm ce face un muzeu. Colectează și conservă bunuri culturale și le valorifică pentru publicul vizitator. Dar cine face toate acestea? Cum se numesc meseriile oamenilor care lucrează într-un muzeu? Ce pregătire au? Ce presupune munca lor? Care sunt poveștile lor? Acest podcast al Muzeului Hartilor își propune să dea glas oamenilor și meseriilor din muzeele românești. Mediatorul Cultural este intermediarul dintre artist, opera sa și public. El este un veritabil om orchestră care coordonează numeroase activități. Medierea culturală este un proces care urmărește restabilirea legăturilor între societate și cultură, între artă și public, între cultură și populații. Rolul medierii culturale este de a crea condițiile unei întâlniri, ale unui dialog deschis. Medierea culturală reprezintă punerea în scenă a triadei formată din public, operă și mediator. Sofía de Juan este mediator cultural, cercetătoare și manager cultural. Activitatea ei se concentrează pe producția culturală și creația colaborativă, implicarea comunității, precum și pe permeabilizarea instituțiilor culturale în vederea promovării unei culturi democratice și diverse. Absolventă a Facultății de Arte Frumoase și cu un master în arte ca instrument de intervenție socială, Sofía face parte din Departamentul de Educație al Museo Nacional del Prado din Madrid. Aici, ea lucrează ca formator în dezvoltarea educațională, proiectând și dezvoltând procese de co-creație și co-producție culturală axate pe oameni prin formate neconvenționale. Irene Pomar este manager cultural, specializată în coordonarea și designul propunerilor educaționale și curatoriale colaborative, pornind de la practica artistică contemporană. În prezent, face parte din echipa de dezvoltare educațională a Muzeul Nacional del Prado, coordonând propuneri precum In Medias Res, Salon Efimero, Ángulos Cardinales și Marcos de Mira. A studiat filozofia la Universitatea Autonoma de Barcelona și a absolvit un masterat în teoria artei contemporane la Fundació Joan Miró.
Acest episod este realizat în limba engleză.
Sofía and Irene, thank you for being here with me today. It's a great pleasure to have you here. You are in Bucharest for the first time in Bucharest, not the first time in Romania, and you now represent the Prado Museum, more specifically Prado Educación, the Educational and Cultural Action Department in Prado. And you are cultural mediators working with communities, with all types of communities, and you are here for this wonderful workshop that was made possible with Erasmus Plus project for adult education, a workshop that we called Let's Talk About Community Engagement with the Prado Museum. So thank you for being here. I would love to let our listeners know more about you, about your careers, and more about Prado Educational. Mm-hmm. I would start with my first question. I would invite either of you to speak about their career path and how you got to work with Prado.
Okay,
Sofía.
So thank you very much, Christina. We are so happy to be here. And we want you and your team to know that it has been an amazing experience to share with all the cultural agents that has gathered in this experience. Their learnings and their knowledge. And first of all, we want to thank everyone. And about what is my background, I think it's quite interesting to point out that I don't come from the art history field. You know, that is the field or the path that usually many of the people that work in museums and in educational museums came from. I'm an artist, I come from the arts, I specialize in photography. From the very beginning, when I started to study at the university, I was at the same time teaching children and teaching elderly people. So it began clear from the very beginning in my art practices, even though at that moment I didn't have any books or lectures or references about it, that I want to engage somehow my art with other people. So when I was growing and my art practice was growing and evolving, I started to introduce communities to work with me and to know more about social engaged art and have this amazing opportunity to start to work more in different fields and read about it and listen about it and have some references. That was very important for me and my career. I have the opportunity to collaborate with the Queen's Museum in New York, with Tania Bruguera, and many people that are very important references for me to understand what it means to work with communities. So after that, I knew that there was kind of like a position or a career that exists, that has a name, and a tag about this. It's like, oh, okay, so this is what I want to do. Then I work in different museums as an educator. I coordinate for small organizations all the educational programs for museums. And somehow it was kind of like a very independent practice, because I was able to work in different museums and have these different practices and design and crafted my own ideas of what I think it was education in museums about. And then with Irene, when I met her at one of the museums I used to work, we developed this organization or association, and we start to, offer our own projects and put it into practice. And then I was called to collaborate with Prado. And in the beginning, I was not sure I will fit in because of this idea that people have that Prado is a classic collection and that is mostly addressed by the art history, focus. But I realized that was something that it has a special value, that I have another kind of background and another kind of perspective. So I can address the works of art from other perspectives that other of my colleagues don't have. So
you fitted in perfectly.
Yeah. Totally.
I must say that I was also surprised, because at first, thinking of the Prado, you think of a classical collection, a classical museum. And then when I had the chance last year to visit you and meet, and I came to know all your projects, I really understood it's something totally different, and it's a very vivid and very present and contemporary museum, at least when it comes to communities and engaging in education and in communities.
Yeah, and also we have a very diverse group of people working. It's not just me that comes from another kind of field that is not the art history, but there's people that comes from the anthropology, and Irene will tell you she comes also from other field that is not just art history. So I think that this is a great enrichment in a way that we can get different perspectives on the collection that are not just like the academic art history ones.
Thank you. Irene.
Hello.
It's your turn. Hello.
So I say thank you too, because I feel so grateful for this experience. For us, it's been a learning moment, and very enriching. So thank you. And what about my background? I studied philosophy, which a priori shouldn't have nothing to do with museums or art or history. But somehow, when I studied philosophy, I always liked maths and science, but also aesthetics. And somehow in my head worked together, don't ask me how. And also during my studies, I was working in a center for adults with special mental needs, with whom I was working, I don't know, since I was 14 as a volunteer, and then with the time you had like kind of professional space there. Mm-hmm. And I already had the occasion to make things that, as Sofía said, I didn't know they had a name. Mm-hmm. I made things, and somehow my instinct made me make cultural things that has to do with doing things together around art, around things that matter in our city, whatever. And so that happened at the same time I was studying philosophy, which at the time was quite theoretical study. So for me, it's like a parallel path at that moment. Afterwards, I had the chance to make a postgraduate in theory of contemporary art. And then this way I met two paths. Like on one side, I made this Lecoq pedagogy about theater and body and physical theater. And on the other hand, I had the occasion to start making artist projects through a gallery. I was first in Barcelona and then in Paris working at Palais de Tokyo. Mm-hmm. So my way, suddenly, in order to do that, I kind of abandoned the educational part, and I was more focused in producing curatorial projects from contemporary artists. And then I continued producing exhibitions, temporary exhibitions at Centre Pompidou Metz in France during 4 or 5 years. I don't remember anymore because it feels like far away at the time. And then I came back to Spain. And instead of going to Barcelona, where I am from, I went to Malaga, where I met this wonderful woman named Sofía. And I was in the exhibition area still. But the volume of the projects allowed me to, like as we say in Spain, put a leg in educational area. So I discovered their methodology, and I suddenly realized that I could love exhibitions, I could love art production, and at the same time kind of go back to this background I really love linked to the education. So it's kind of, as I wrote the book before, but it's written afterwards. So it happens like a perfect, for me it's a perfect love story that suddenly puts together both things you love, education and making cultural projects. So we made this association, Plataforma Indómita. And then also while I was working in Madrid and Sofía was already working at Prado Museum, I had also the same impression when our boss, who already knew Sofía, Ana Moreno, asked me to collaborate, and I was saying, but I am not a art historian. I don't know. Are you sure? And yeah, it was the same impression we had, and I think it's very interesting because suddenly you have an artist, very good artist, like Sofía is, photographer, but also collage artist, and myself, who never considered myself a philosopher. I never know how to name myself. But suddenly, by making things and by building projects, you kind of find your place and your language. And it's a completely shareable language, and that it can live together and do something. Mm-hmm. You combine this expertise, you enjoy it. I hope you do.
And we think we enrich each other.
Of course, and suddenly I'm not that, because it's true that there's an age where you're obsessed by giving you a name. I'm a philosopher, and I don't feel like. But now I'm really not obsessed anymore because I'm just working in educational area where I can develop the skills and keep on learning all the time. So.
Great answers. But I'm going to tag you today. I'm going to give you names. I'm going to call
Someone has to do it.
Yes. I'm going to call you today cultural mediators.
Good.
And my next question will be, what you as a cultural mediator do? You may take a few moments to think, but I would like to know what the cultural mediator Irene does, her definition of cultural mediation, and Sofía's definition of cultural mediation.
Okay. I used to say that cultural mediation. It's related with creation and communities and education. And I already said this today because I think that somehow, as I come from the art world, for me, every cultural mediation process is creative process. And it's also a research process that you do with communities instead of by yourself. And all this, obviously, as a research process, is a learning process where we all learn. So we gather with communities as a learning community. And we all have our backgrounds, we all have our knowledge that is not maybe an academic knowledge, but different kinds of knowledge. And we put all this together towards some kind of question that we have, and we want to answer with the communities. And we support ourselves in the artwork that it's somehow the reflection of our society or past society, but at least is our heritage. So it has to be with society. It has to be with people that somehow many years ago or maybe yesterday, but they reflect somehow their thoughts, their ideas, their feelings there. So we support ourselves on this heritage just to talk about meaningful things for us and going towards some kind of knowledge and answering questions that we think that can mean something for us and for other people.
That's so nice. Thank you.
Yes.
Irene.
Okay, I won't repeat all the same. I completely agree and share this opinion. And indeed, it's our job is a kind of space and time stopper somehow. So in a museum like ours, with a lot of inputs, constant inputs, works, security, bookshop, we try to create this occasion where we just gather and think, how do we want to be here? In what way do we want to live during the time we are here together in this museum? So I think this is our job, which to me sounds good. I like it, and very much indeed. And also maybe there's also this other part that we never mention, but because this particular and individual and detailed work that we do, it's also done by this administrative thing that we don't even know how to name. but it's very interesting in how we can keep this sort of authentic relationship with people. And in the meantime, a lot of our time is dedicated to try to keep this administrative machine in order so that we can keep on doing it and that it becomes a friend and not a problem. You know, it's this is also our job. So I like to say it, not because it's my favorite part, but since you asked about our professions, I think it's important to say that we spend a lot of time with that. And the people we are talking about from administration are also people that are interested on the project in the end and try to find solution with us most of the time. So
I want to add something to what she just said that I think is very important. And it's true that maybe I have only talked about the part that we are with communities, but this is a big part. And I think that this is very important to address, because we used to think that cultural management is one thing and the community is other thing, but they have to come together and go in the same path, because if you have some, I will say, like values or convictions about your work, like, for example, I don't know, I want cultural democracy, I don't know, but we believe in that. So this has to be present not only in the what, but also in the house. And, you know, in how you do things, not only in what do you do. And how do you think you should be doing not only the community part, but also the bureaucracy part. That is more tough because sometimes you can kind of like get into think that this is something somehow different, or that it just runs by itself, or like is a monotone thing that you have to, fill this paper or whatever. But it's important to focus on how you do it, because how you do it, it will define maybe the other part, and how you think on this and look for strategies on doing this kind of bureaucracy part will define the prices, or how people feel welcome, or many of this bureaucracy part defines the experience that you're trying to put together afterwards. So it's a very good point that you address this topic also.
But I'm a nice person.
I was listening to you, and all these questions were just coming to my mind. Unfortunately, we don't have time for all the questions that I would like to ask you. But in the same time, I was remembering that in Prado, in the educational department, you have like a small industry that it's like a huge amount of work that you are doing there, and at this point, I feel like I should thank Ana Moreno for letting you take a break from all your work and coming here and letting Prado Educational be seen, and letting Prado Museum be seen as methodology and as procedures and projects. And so my next question for you would be, not a question, but a request more, to explain a bit how the educational department at Prado is structured, because from what I know, no Romanian museum has an educational department organized as such. And I must say that for me it was a game changer, and starting last year when I visited Prado, I keep thinking of how I should better organize the work in my museum. So I guess it would be encouraging and inspiring for our colleagues to know how the department is organized in Prado.
Okay, I will try my best. Okay. It's a big structure, but we have like different main directions, and each direction has somehow many projects that are around these directions. Like, for example, we have students and teachers that somehow...
So one of them is students and teachers, one focus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but we have many projects that are related with the students, other ones that are related with teachers, and, for example, one that joins them both. Like deslizar.
Transversal.
Yeah, transversal.
Okay.
Then we have all the digital area that is related with all the digital projects, web docs, and online courses, resources, digital resources, and so on. Then we have this, of course, cultural action that has to be more with live arts, concerts, theater performance, and we have public programs that are related mostly with families. Then we have like a whole line of mediation just for the general public and youth, youngsters. And then we have like a huge part of this line that we called community. That includes Prado Social, that is related with social projects, Prado Sensorial, that is related with sensory projects for people with disabilities, and Inclusive Prado, that is more related with different kind of projects that include somehow vulnerable communities.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exclusion situation.
Yeah.
Okay, so each focus or direction, let's call it focuses, is run by one person. No. It's coordinated by few persons.
It may have, for example, if I can, I wouldn't be able to tell you where I am.
Yeah.
And what do I mean with that? Because if I talk about, I don't know, 3 projects, like the youngsters, I'm in what we call the red zone, no? The younger people zone. But also I'm working with social projects.
Okay, so I will ask differently. How many employees are there in the department? Employees.
In the department, there are 6, 7, plus the
Anna.
bosses. Yeah.
Okay, so what do the 6, 7 employees do? Because you are employees, what do you do?
Okay, for example, in my case, I start by me, which is easier for me, and then I talk about, I have a project with the youngers.
Okay, so you work in different
areas.
projects in different focuses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's only 1 or 2 colleagues that are really only in one area. But Sofía, she's also working in different areas. Like,
so you might work in social Prado,
Yes.
also in students Prado, and so on. Okay.
it's a conceptual organization, but it's not necessarily linked to one person.
Yeah. And sometimes there's projects that are run by 2 people. For example, Irene worked in several projects with another colleague, and others, she ran this project by herself. And we try to remain like this because we think it's enriching, not just to focus in one focus, but keep nurturing ourselves by different perspectives and different projects that, maybe
keep
can
your
be
mind fresh and awake.
And it's also, it also makes it easier to create alliances, because if I was the only one working with youngsters, maybe it wouldn't happen what it already happened, which is that Sofía, who has another group of youngsters, collaborate with me to do one activity, or now I will try to collaborate with her with another activity, so we can create these synergies.
Yeah, for example, she works in with this group of youngsters and teens that are more focused on collaborative curating. And I have another group of youngsters that are, it's more like a laboratory of young creators. So we can collaborate because we have 2 different points of view and 2 different points of how to address the work, and they then can, join together and do things together. So we think it's more enriching for the communities and also for us.
It definitely is. So there are only 6 employees. The rest of the people who work actually with the public, who are they? Where do they come from?
They are educators and mediators that are hired through an enterprise, but they are most of them are there like for years, because we kind of protect them so that they are hired. If you change the enterprise, you don't.
And for example, there are persons who only work on a specific project. These hired collaborators.
So they are quite flexible, but indeed, and for reasons of organization, in the end, there are, I wouldn't say a specialization, but indeed it happens naturally.
They prefer to work in a specific...
Yeah, sometimes I prefer guided visits, or others prefer working with families, and it depends. Others with long-term projects and specific.
And then we also, for specific projects, we count on artists or other kind of specialists that can collaborate with us for, specific things that we think it's important to address through other kind of professionals that are not us. Like, for example, each year we have this kind of map that used to address some kind of topic, and we always count with an illustrator. So it's for families. and you can address a topic and encourage families to make some kind of actions or activities. So each year we count on an illustrator that we think that can help us to put together an idea or a concept in an attractive way and in a different way that people will like to learn from, basically. And in many other projects, we count on artists or...
Great. Do you have any idea how many collaborators or hired persons Prado has for this educational project?
I never counted them, but because it depends on the project.
Yeah, and then
But
come
it's
and
like
goes.
more than 100, less than 100?
No. We are around 20, maybe. 20,
okay.
20, 25.
Yeah,
20 or 25, and you are doing such a huge work?
Yes, we move very fast.
I think we only have time for 2 questions. So one of my last questions is if you work with other NGOs or institutions in your work. I know that you work with the Red Cross, you work with the churches, if I remember well. So maybe you can tell me a few more things about this cooperation that you have with other institutions. How do you get to work with them? Where does your work stop and theirs begin, and so on?
Maybe in our case, and with my colleague Santiago, we have one of the projects. For example, it's Marcos de Mira, and for this project we collaborate until now with 12 associations or NGO that work with people in situation of vulnerability. My God, we need easier words. Sorry. In this case, so the agents are us from Prado Educación, these associations, and also there's a sponsor that gives money, and also, as to complete the previous question, we have an artist who is following us every day in order to make a narrative diary, a graphic diary, and also the educator and the artist that is making and designing this workshop with the agents. So the agents, these associations, what they do is actually accompanying the participants and just make we are just collaborating in order that everything happens easily. So that's it.
Yeah. In our case, for example, when we work, we have this rural project in the Jerte Valley, that is a valley mostly agricultural, where we work with a group of approximately 50 women from different villages that they gather together every 15 days just to, reflect and talk about how rural women were represented into art history and also in art collections, and also make art with us. We have a mediator from the valley, that is very important for us because she is the one that knows the community way better than us. I mean, we have been working now since 2019, but still, in the beginning, she was like the expert in how to address the work with these women. And she's the one that helped us to be present all the time, even though we are not going to be able to make it 4 hours away every week. So sometimes she's the one that address the sessions there, and sometimes I make sessions via Zoom, online, and sometimes I go there and I stay there for a week, or and sometimes the women come to the museum and stay with us.
So you also go out of the museum, not only in Prado.
Yeah, totally. We have many projects that happens outside the museum. So
great.
Sometimes it's challenging, but it's always enriching. So
we also have our colleague Santiago. He also goes to hospitals, and then so It's very, very interesting work.
Yeah, and also in schools. We have this Deslizar, this project that we collaborate with teachers and students and artists that we made thanks to Art Explora Foundation. And some of the sessions happen inside the schools that are, low-income schools and public schools that has some kind of challenge. And sometimes the sessions are in our museum. So we have this kind of back and forth.
And when you go to schools or to the communities, you go as yourself, or you bring with you various objects from the museum?
Well, in case of Deslizar, we always bring, of course, apart from different kind of art tools or artistic tools, we always bring copies of the paintings that we're gonna address. Yeah. But because also the teachers and the students ask for it, even though we bring maybe one or two big copies of the, painting that we are addressing in this specific session, then they ask ourselves, we want one for this other class that they want to address this also in their class. So, and I think it's important to say that we not only think on arts as a topic, but as a methodology. So that gives us the opportunity to work with many different kinds of materials. Also with, of course, the collection that support us in every kind of aspect, But we also bring a lot of materials, not only materials just to reflect on or dialogue, but also to have hands-on experiences.
Great job.
Thank
you. One last challenge is that you pick one project and you talk about it. Just think of the one that you came with the idea or that you feel most attached to or whatever. I know it's difficult.
It's very difficult to choose. Maybe I will talk about In Medias Res, which is the project with the youngsters between 16 and 25 years old. It was born because I always say that the museum lack of young girls.
Yes,
that
true.
We didn't want to build it as a statistical answer. We don't want youngs because it's not the good. We found a way to build a project where we count on these boys and girls that are coming and try to work in the museum by themselves, choosing what they want to talk about. But in order to do so, the museum states non-rhetorical questions, like Sofía mentioned before, regarding another subject. And, the museum admits that it has something to learn from them. And they want to research together about this question. So in this way, we had 50 youngs the first year. Now we reduced to one group because there was only one Irene, so we had to reduce. But it was very interesting because they are, through the collaborative curating methodology, they've been building different proposals, artistic proposal, curatorial proposals, and mediation proposal on the exhibitions and temporary exhibitions we have. And sometimes it is it's quite funny because everybody said, it's funny because youngs will make that youngsters come, other youngsters come to me. Yeah, it's true, they will come, other youngsters. But in the end, what happens is that also older people want to stay with them and talk to them in the rooms. And suddenly it's a new relationship with the exhibition space. So I would resume it like this. I think it's...
They have a strict period of time when they have to come to the museum, or how does it work?
What we've done by the moment is that we meet every 2 Thursdays in the afternoon. And then while they need to produce something or create something and they need the more intense time, sometimes you are like working, you don't want to stop. So they sometimes come some days more. So we have an appointment that day and I help out or they work alone depending on the situation. And also we have extra meetings while they are doing something in the exhibition rooms. So maybe there are 4 weeks that are not in the plan, but they are there because they want to be there and they want to be sharing their ideas and their space with the public. So it's,
and how did you find them? How did they get to know about the project?
We make an open call in this case. We wanted to try. I was quite afraid because nobody will come. Collaborative, curating. I didn't know if they would. But we had a lot of inscriptions. So the challenge was that make that what they are creating arrives to other people, not only youngsters, that wouldn't ever read that open call because they are not aware or it's not accessible to them, this information. So this is the little challenge we are working on now.
Thank you, Irene. Sofía.
Okay, so I will talk about Deslizar. That is, for us, one of the first projects where we kind of try to change the paradigm on how we relate, how we engage with schools, and with regular education in general. We start to work, thanks to Art Explora Foundation, on this idea of, that museums, I think in the past times, used to trying to understand or trying to find out what teachers and what students need from us, So I'm gonna figure out what I think they need, and I will give them to you. And how I think that our collections can help them. So we thought, okay, maybe it's better just to join them and find this together, we can find out together. So we start to change also like the kind of experiences we used to have with the schools. We still have these experiences, but we also bring this time and this space where we can develop a long-term relationship with the schools. So we choose 6 schools thanks to the community of Madrid that has, some kind of challenge, or they work with vulnerable part of society or the city, And we gather in each of the school, we make like a team with a contemporary artist, with, of course, mediators and museum staff, and with the teachers. And we develop this time and this space to address the needs, the curricular needs and the non-curricular ones that sometimes are more challenging, and see how we all together can get the collection as a trigger of learning and addressing these topics, and design these handcrafted kind of experiences that then we implement with the children. And this runs 1 year. Like sometimes we work in the schools and sometimes children come to our schools and teachers the same.
I'm just dreaming now that we will be able to adopt or to adapt the projects that you already mentioned to Romanian museums. They are very inspiring. Thank you, beautiful ladies, for joining us today. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thanks
Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Acest proiect este realizat de Muzeul Hartilor. Echipa de producție, producător și realizator, Cristina Tomă. Producător executiv, director creativ și graphic designer, Teodora Dumitrache. Postproducție audio și video, Mike Popescu.